Welcome to my channel Clarkspective.
Breakout star, Caitlin Clark's bodyguard.
And it literally pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What? When people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
The way Caitlin Clark is being targeted is no longer just a theory, it's a deliberate scrap.
It just took one Instagram comment to ignite the WNBA as a whole. Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back while criticizing the league's top leader. Her harsh remarks caused players, fans, and commentators to take sides in a matter of hours. The repercussions is still spreading, and what transpires on September 30th, 2025, could permanently alter professional women's basketball. Cunningham was using her phone to browse Instagram when the Indiana Fever were finishing up their season when she came across something that infuriated her. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 85% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. Let's just say that anyone who heard Minnesota Lynx star Nafisa Collier's shocking news conference about her private talks with WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert on player salaries didn't like what Engelbert allegedly said about Caitlin Clark. With a prepared statement, Collier stepped at the stage. Her voice was firm, but her words were like a knife. She described how, months prior, she had questioned Engelbert about the league's plans regarding rookie compensation, particularly for players who are obviously bringing enormous sums of money into the WNBA, like as Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Bueckers. Collier said that Engelbert's reaction was astounding. According to the commissioner, Clark should be thankful for earning $16 million off the court because she wouldn't be able to make any money without the platform the WNBA provides. However, the worst part wasn't even that. Engelbert allegedly told Collier during that same conversation that players ought to be on their knees expressing gratitude to their fortunate stars for the media rights agreement she secured for them. Those statements struck a distinct note with their haughtiness. This was no longer just about Clark. It was about all the players who had spent years honing their craft. The league's leadership claimed credit for their accomplishments. Keir's remarks went beyond mere grievances. It was a planned assault on every flaw in WNBA leadership. Despite having what she regarded as the greatest players and fans in the world, she termed the league's management the worst in the world. She described how, during an unparalleled game in February, she had contacted Engelbert in the hopes of receiving genuine information regarding player salary. Rather, she received condescending comments that essentially urged celebrities to be grateful for scraps. Keir had been carrying this dissatisfaction for months, according to many individuals who later corroborated that she had told teammates and other players about this talk within days of it occurring. Her decision to make her exit interview public was a calculated move. Collier was applying maximum pressure on league leadership at the most painful time, as collective bargaining talks heated up and a deadline of October 31st loomed. Nor was she merely speaking for herself. In her role as vice president of the WNBA Players Association, she was speaking for hundreds of women who had been keeping their mouths shut for years while their sports popularity skyrocketed and their pay remained pitifully low. Keir wasn't being abstract when she brought up accountability. She gave specific instances of horrible calls made by referees with no repercussions and of league officials shielding incompetent referees while penalizing players for expressing the truth. It wasn't a heated moment. She had completely lost faith in this planned, methodical dismantling of authority. Sophie Cunningham is not like other WNBA players. Her past demonstrates that she is built differently. She became the youngest person in Missouri to receive a black belt in Taekwondo at the age of 6. Her discipline and restrained aggression carried over into basketball, but what really makes her stand out is her loyalty. Fans soon discovered Cunningham wasn't just another guard when she joined the Fever earlier this year from the Phoenix Mercury. She served as Clark's bodyguard and enforcer, ready to fight when officials failed to defend the biggest star in the league. Cunningham had been involved in several physical altercations this season while protecting Clark from cheap shots and dirty actions. Things got out of control during a game versus the Connecticut Sun in June. After a hard foul, Connecticut guard JCS Sheldon pursued Clark and knocked her to the ground. Cunningham became enraged. She literally slammed Sheldon to the ground with a full bear hug tackle on the very next play, igniting a furious altercation. The league quickly expelled Cunningham and penalized him $500. However, after that ejection, an amazing thing occurred. Every retail site sold out of her jersey in a matter of hours. In a single week, she gained almost 800,000 new fans on social media. In an instant, she became a folk hero. Every elite athlete wishes they had this teammate. Fans began referring to her as Clark's personal bodyguard and enforcer since she genuinely supported her when officials failed to carry out their duties. Throughout the season, Cunningham received numerous fines for criticizing officials on social media, but she refused to back down. She would make a joke about launching a GoFundMe page to pay Clark's $200 fine for disparaging referees. She would openly accuse league authorities of failing to safeguard their star. The fines continued to accrue. She was unconcerned. All of that would be overshadowed by what Cunningham said on Instagram on Tuesday afternoon following Keir's press conference, solidifying her reputation as the most daring voice in women's basketball. We must first ascertain the true absurdity of Angelbert's purported remarks before moving on to Cunningham's answer. Not only do the figures refute her claim, but they also totally disprove it. Clark agreed to a $338,000, 4-year contract with the Fever. $76,000, $535 was her first year's salary. In contrast, the top choice in the NBA draft that year, Victor Wembanyama, signed a 4-year contract worth $55 million, earning more than $12 million in just his first season. The thing that Angelbert appears to have overlooked is that Clark was already a huge star before she ever entered a WNBA stadium. She had previously inked a $28 million contract with Nike during her final year at Iowa. Even in her college years, she was earning more than $3 million from endorsements. 18.7 million people watched her final college game against South Carolina. With a peak viewership of 24.1 million, it was the most watched basketball game on ESPN since 2019, not women's basketball. Everything is basketball. This covers every game in the NBA Finals, every game in the NCAA men's tournament, and everything else. Clark accomplished that while receiving absolutely no compensation from the WNBA. Therefore, Angelbert was effectively claiming credit for a phenomenon that existed completely independently of the league when she purportedly stated that Clark should be thankful to the WNBA for her platform. However, depending on your point of view, things either grow better or worse. The WNBA didn't give Clark a platform when she joined in 2024, but she provided them with a lifeline. ESPN's viewership increased by 170% over the prior season. The average number of spectators at home games increased from 4,000 to over 17,000 due to the Fever, necessitating the relocation of games to larger venues. Overall league attendance increased by 48% for all teams. Due to the overwhelming demand for tickets, teams like the New York Liberty and Las Vegas Aces began shifting their games against the Heat to NBA arenas. The WNBA and many networks inked a $2.2 billion media rights agreement. Executives freely acknowledged that Clark's ability to capture attention played a significant role in those discussions. Clark was included in the most watched WNBA games ever recorded by 6 different broadcast networks. In a single season, the league's videos received more than 2 billion views on social media. Sales of merchandise increased by 600%. Several financial analysts claimed that Clark's debut season brought in more money for the WNBA than the preceding 5 seasons put together. In actuality, though, Clark saved a league that had been losing money for decades, so she should be thankful that the WNBA provided her a platform. The commissioner allegedly instructed her to be appreciative of the chance rather than expressing gratitude. That is deluded, not just tone-deaf. Cunningham's remarks on Instagram were delivered with such accuracy that they were like a knockout punch. She posted exactly what millions of fans were thinking beneath a post about Keir's press conference. C is the sole reason people are familiar with Kathy. Our league has never seen a more delusional leader than her. To ensure that no one missed her point, she then added another comment in all caps. And our commissioner should never be the topic of discussion in the first place. The internet blew up. Fans took screenshots of the comments and shared them on every social media site within minutes. Sports pundits spent whole segments dissecting the drama. Some described it as the most audacious player protest against league leadership in the history of professional sports. League officials were unable to ignore the flood of solidarity created by other WNBA players liking and sharing tweets in support of both Cunningham and Collier. Even Stephanie White, Clark's new coach, publicly referred to Keir as a strong woman in the midst of the drama, effectively co-signing all statements. Cunningham's call-out was heartbreaking for more reasons than just the words. It was the indisputable reality behind them. Before Clark, no one knew who Kathy Engelbert was. In 2019, the commissioner became the first person in WNBA history to hold that post, although for 5 years, casual sports fans seldom noticed her. Engelbert didn't start making headlines on a regular basis until Clark Mania took over in 2024. Those headlines weren't flattering anymore. They were recording her claimed disparaging remarks about the biggest star in the league, her seeming ignorance of what was truly spurring growth, and her refusal to acknowledge that the WNBA's success should have been attributed to the players rather than management. Because it was so blatantly accurate, Cunningham's straightforward statement that people only knew Engelbert because of Clark was a stomach strike. Cunningham had already engaged in conflict with league leadership. By no means. She has been accruing fines like merit badges for the whole 2025 season. She openly accused referees of failing to safeguard the league's star player following the Connecticut Sun altercation that made her a household name. She said that the scenario had been brewing for months and that officials had done nothing to stop it. Once more, she was fined. She didn't express regret. On her podcast, Show Me Something, which she started with her childhood buddy West Wilson from Bravo's Summer House and Colin Coward's The Volume Network, she had been much more harsh with her detractors. She often used foul language in the first episode while standing up for Clark against those who said she wasn't the league's face. She's not the face of the league. What? Cunningham asked, her voice rising with real rage. It literally pisses me off when people are like that. In our league, there are some excellent, well-known individuals. I'm not disparaging them. In our league, there are a lot of badasses. Yes, without a doubt. That's fine with me. However, you're as stupid as FC Key if you try to claim that she isn't the face of our league or that we wouldn't be where we are without her. Cunningham received further sanctions from the league office after that video rapidly went viral and had millions of views on various platforms. She made fun of the fines on social media, turning them into entertainment and essentially challenging authorities to pursue her further. Engelbert was contrasted to other sports commissioners like Adam Silver and Roger Goodell by her podcast co-host, who said that prosperous leagues prioritize and appreciate their stars. LeBron James and Steph Curry are heavily marketed by the NBA. Every advertisement and marketing campaign the NFL can manage features Patrick Mahomes. However, the biggest star in league history was purportedly told by the WNBA's commissioner to express gratitude for the chance to play. What sort of self-destructive, backward leadership was that? Additionally, Cunningham disclosed insider knowledge from her time with the Phoenix Mercury, acknowledging that her former teammates there had actually plotted to rough up Clark before she joined the Fever. I am aware of the conversations Phoenix had in their locker. We're going to show her the true meaning of the W. According to Cunningham, the admission validated the suspicions of many admirers. While referees turned a blind eye, veteran players who were envious of Clark's success physically attacked her. Cunningham persisted in writing, speaking, and promoting the idea that players should have received better treatment from their league office throughout it all. The fines continued to accrue. She really didn't give a damn. With episode downloads matching some of the league's real game viewership figures, her podcast became a must-listen for WNBA fans. Companies like Ring Home Security and Arby's began offering her endorsement opportunities because they adored her genuine, unfiltered demeanor. By simply choosing to remain silent when injustice occurred in front of her, Cunningham had unintentionally stumbled into a media empire. For Engelbert, the timing of this whole thing could not have been worse, and that was probably the whole goal. Only a few weeks after Keir's press conference, the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement was scheduled to expire on October 31st. The league's players were already engaged in heated discussions for a new contract, and by all accounts, they were far from reaching a consensus. The Players Association, headed by President Nneka Onyeamaka and Vice President Nafisa Collier, had been actively advocating for greater pay, improved working conditions, and real revenue sharing that matched the league's tremendous expansion. Negotiations were already strained prior to Collier's shocking revelation. League administrators have cited sustainability as an excuse for their reluctance to increase player compensation. Players were becoming more and more irritated with what they perceived to be dishonest negotiation strategies, even though they had signed a multi-billion-dollar media agreement and were enjoying record income. Then Cunningham attacked Engelbert's leadership on Instagram right after Keir's press conference went off without a hitch. All of the league's players were suddenly supporting them. Current and past players expressed their dissatisfaction with the league's treatment of them in a plethora of social media posts. One of the most renowned voices in the game and a four-time MVP for the Las Vegas Aces, A'ja Wilson, expressed her disdain with Angelbert's purported comments and promised to support Keir no matter what. Another Aces star and the first vice president of the Players Association, Kelsey Plum, disclosed that the more suggestions players gave, the worse the negotiations had really gotten, indicating that league officials weren't at all bargaining in good faith. On all social media platforms, fans began demanding that Angelbert step down. Sports writers penned harsh opinion pieces challenging her leadership and wondering whether she was the best person to run the league during this critical moment of expansion. Then, at the WNBA Finals trophy ceremony, an extraordinary event occurred. When Angelbert took the stage, the audience genuinely jeered at her. It got that terrible. Fans actively jeering a commissioner at the league's largest festivities. The picture of her standing there clumsily while alcohol poured down quickly became a meme and a perfect representation of how estranged she had gotten from the WNBA's true supporters. Angelbert made an effort to reply, but her actions seemed to exacerbate the problem. She began by releasing a statement in which she expressed her deep admiration for Keir and promised to improve going forward. However, in the same sentence, she effectively called Keir a liar, claiming that the conversation did not take place as Keir claimed and criticizing inaccurate media coverage. This only made players more enraged because Engelbert was deceiving a reputable union vice president. Then, in a news conference prior to the first game of the WNBA Finals, Engelbert expressed her disappointment and asserted that she was a human being with a family that was heartbroken by the comments. When players were out there agitating for decent wages, she tried to play the victim card by talking about how sad her kids were, which felt really tone-deaf. Although she made it clear that she didn't say the lines about Clark being appreciative and the players being on their knees, she didn't offer any other explanation for what she actually said in that February exchange. When asked for specifics, she sidestepped, complained about clickbait and claiming it wasn't useful to go through each comment point by point. Several writers observed that Angelbert appeared to be more focused on maintaining her own reputation than on resolving the players' justifiable complaints. In an attempt to resolve the situation, she texted Collier directly to set up a meeting. However, Collier completely canceled the appointment after hearing about Angelbert's news conference, in which she played victim and denied everything. That was the extent of the relationship's burn. According to reports, Angelbert's player approval rating was almost zero, and league officials were beginning to worry about the implications for CBA negotiations. According to the Sports Business Journal, which cited several sources, Engelbert would probably step down as commissioner at some point after the new CBA was finalized. The article described the situation as relationship-driven and related to her interactions with players and co-workers. Despite a WNBA spokesperson's unequivocal denial of such accusations, no one took them seriously. It was clearly written on the wall. Everyone understood that Angelbert's term was coming to an end. The entire issue revealed far more than the purported remarks of a single commissioner. It exposed a basic gap between the WNBA's management and the players who really run the league. For many years, athletes had been working abroad during the off-season in countries like China, Russia, and Turkey since WNBA pay were insufficient to make ends meet. Jackie Young, the league's best-paid player, earned slightly more than $250,000 in 2025. That may seem respectable, but consider how much an NBA player can earn in a single game. In the meantime, these women witnessed record-breaking attendance at their games, saw arenas sell out for the first time in league history, learned that the WNBA had recently inked a $2.2 billion media contract, and continued to receive poverty salaries in comparison to their true contribution to income. While the average NBA pay was more than $10 million, the average WNBA wage was only $130,000. Revenue disparities are frequently brought up, however, this important statistic refutes that claim. NBA players receive around 50% of basketball-related earnings, compared to 9.4% for WNBA players. WNBA players were being treated unfairly even after taking into consideration the enormous disparity in overall revenue. Angelbert's purported remarks on Clark's gratitude summed up all the resentment these players had been holding within for years. What many had suspected was proven. The players who were spearheading this extraordinary expansion were not genuinely valued by the league's administration. Instead of viewing them as the engine that powers everything, they saw them as interchangeable parts of a machine. They wanted to take credit for the achievement while compensating those who made it possible, as if they were grateful for the opportunity. Because of this, Keir's remarks went beyond simply criticizing Angelbert's remarks regarding salaries. She discussed the league office's lack of responsibility, officials making bad decisions with no repercussions, and a leadership structure that penalized players for voicing their opinions while shielding referees who were unable to do their duties effectively. She said that even minor criticism might result in thousands of dollars in fines for players.